Hobby Quick Hits. Delivering that breaking hobby news directly to your earlobes. You want to know those hot drops from the card shop? We've got you covered. With your host, John Newman.
Welcome everyone to episode 184 of Hobby Quick Hits. Some house cleaning notes before we get this episode started. We are pre-recording this episode as we are at the National. Hopefully you are too, and having a blast. And so no new segment. We'll do the new releases because that really hasn't changed too much. So we'll cover the new releases, no new segment. And then today's topic is avoiding fakes, right? We talk about theft or getting taken, and obviously you have burglary robberies, but you can be taken when purchasing cards. Even getting a card for your money may not be real, may be altered. So how to avoid that? And there's a lot of great information out there that I'm going to share with you to avoid falling down that pratfall and that kind of stuff. If you've ever been taken, is really, it hurts, number one, and can really ruin your hobby experience, obviously. And I've known people who gotten taken, and that was the last thing they did in the hobby. They were so fed up, they left. Sad to see in the few cases where I've seen that. So we don't want to see that happen, right? We want to share information, keep everyone hobby safe, if you will, and I'm going to share some of that information on this show. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, then see what's coming out in the next couple weeks, and then tackle how to be safe and avoid fake or altered cards.
Okay, now a quick word from our great sponsor, followed by the new product release schedule. Then we'll go around the Hobbyverse to tell you all the latest hobby happenings and news. Then we'll tackle today's topic of discussion.
Hi, this is Pat Hughes, Cubs announcer, coming to you from the Sports Card Shop in beautiful New Buffalo, Michigan. The Gocher family has built an incredible place here for collectors to buy, sell, and trade cards and memorabilia. Be sure to stop by and let them show you around. TheSportsCardShop.com, connecting sports, athletes, the hobby, and collectors around the world.
Hi, this is Alan Pinkett, and I'm here to tell you the Gocher family has done it again. They've just opened up the Sport Card Shop in downtown Valparaiso, Indiana, and it is awesome. If you're a collector, you need to check this place out. Tell them Alan sent you and get a free gift on your first visit.
All right, you got me doing the next 2 weeks of what's coming out on the wax product front. Let's start with the end of the month here, July 31st. We have 2023 Panini Donruss Optic Football. Same day, 23-24 Panini Impeccable Soccer. Same day as well, 2024 Topps Museum Collection Baseball. On the 2nd of August, we have Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Shrouded Fable, Kingdra, Greninja EX Special Illustration Collection. Try saying that 10 times real fast. Same day, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Shrouded Fable, Mini 10 Elite Trainer Boxes, the King Gambit Illustration Collection, and the 3-pack blister packs. On 8/7, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Season 1, along with the Collector's album as well. August 7th, 2023-24, Panini Mosaic Basketball. 2024 Panini Prism WWE. 2024 Topps Chrome Baseball Monster Boxes. 2023 Leaf Trinity Baseball. 2024 Upper Deck Marvel Masterpieces Extra Large. 2023-24 Upper Deck XPX Hockey. So August 7th, a big release day. Let's move to the 9th, 2023-24 Panini Immaculate Soccer. Upper Deck Halo Legacy Collection. And we'll close with the releases on the 14th, which include 2023 Panini's Contenders Optic Football, 2023-24 Panini Impeccable Basketball, and 2024 Topps Complete Baseball Factory Sets hit the market. So there's your releases for the next 2 weeks. As I always say, choose your weapon, happy ripping. So let me start out asking everyone out there listening a question. Do you work hard for your money? Do you earn your money? I think most of you probably heard that, either made a weird face or nodded your head yes, right? I think we all, feel we work hard and earn our money. Maybe some of us even think we're underpaid, right? So you work hard, you earn your money, and right, you don't want to get ripped off or taken for a ride, and especially on the hobby side of things, right? The hobby's supposed to be fun, enjoyable, and usually is, right? But there are situations where people get, bamboozled out of their money, but buying a illegitimate card, right? A fake slab, a fake counterfeit card. And I can tell you, I've done some bulk subbing for SGC now for 18 months. And I can tell you firsthand from taking in other people's cards, I'm not the grader, I'm the middleman here. But where I'm going with this is I can tell you that I get, not necessarily every order I submit, but, cards come back as counterfeit. Pokemon cards especially. I probably have had more Pokemon counterfeits than sports card counterfeits. But on both sides of those aisles, I've had counterfeits come on both. I even go further than that. I've had people sub cards come up to my submission table, and in looking at the cards they're subbing, I can already detect that a card is a fake. And I'm very honest, right? I'll tell the person, I'm not sure where you got this, but if you can, rescind the deal, this is not a genuine, real McCoy of this card. A lot of times in those cases, they thank me, and obviously I've saved them a submission fee. In some cases, the person will say, I still like to send it. Not that I don't believe you, John, but I still like to send it and have SGC kind of tell me what you just did. And we've done that too. And in all those cases, unfortunately, those cards come back as fugazis and counterfeits. And you hate to see it, right? It's a black eye for the hobby. It's a bad look for the hobby. But anytime there's money that can be made, and this is not exclusive to the hobby, but anytime there's money that can be made unscrupulously, without morals, somebody's going to find a way to do it, right? We just had a heist in Dallas of a lot of cards, and people are going to steal, burglarize, make phony cards to profit. That's just human nature. It's been like that since the beginning of time. So I put this episode together with some tips and strategies, to hope that you're not a victim or don't get caught up in that sort of toil, right? And what to look out for and that sort of thing. And it's even more than just a raw card, right? There are fake slabs. This is the next level. People are not only faking cards, but making fake PSA slabs, fake SGC slabs, fake Beckett slabs. So, you need to pay attention and be aware that, just because the card isn't a graded slab, probably 99.8% are all real McCoys, but it's not 100, and we need to be aware of that. So, where to start, right? Talk to people, ask people, do some research, Google some stuff, especially on a bigger purchase, right? Obviously, you're buying a card for $20, it's a little different than buying a car for 4, 5, 6 figures, right? But regardless, be knowledgeable, right? Knowledge is power. Do the research, Google stuff, ask people, get opinions. Again, there's some great books out there pertaining to fakes. My friend, Ryan Nolan wrote one called Spotting Fakes, right? It's a great book where it really tackles what to look for. Read that book. It's not a big book. You can read it in a couple days. And there's other books too, and to be fair to other authors. But, I know Ryan, it's a great book, and he really is thorough with it. And he tackles, some of the most counterfeited cards in the hobby. That's the other thing. Be aware of what cards are the most counterfeited cards in the hobby. That's half the battle right there, right? What things can you do yourself, right? What tools can you employ to maybe examine a card? Some of them are in your pocket probably right now. What do I mean by that? Well, if you have a smartphone, you most likely do. That flashlight part, right? The flash that you can turn on to see better, maybe in a dark situation. That's also a card tool. Because when you deal with vintage cards, with the exception of the thin stock 1959 top set, that light should not pass through a card. It's not 100% true across the board, but it's very, very close to that. So if that light from your smartphone passes through the card from front to back or back to front, that stock is too thin in relativity to the real card. And so right there, the flashlight test can be one of the first things you can do, right? You can go further, right? At home, you're probably not carrying a black light around with you everywhere you go, but if you have a black light, you can get them on Amazon. They're cheap. You have that at home. You put a cards under a black light, the fakes will glow luminescent, okay, where the real ones will not change their appearance wise, and that has to do with the chemical process and the card stock as well. So black light, flashlight, a loop, right? A jeweler's loop that we use in cards, right? A fit in pocket. I bring one to all the shows I do as well, right? Some of these fakes, right, are using dot matrix patterns that didn't exist at the time of the real printing of the cards. So look, it can be very apparent. Another telltale giveaway, right? Also, when we talk, going back to the light test too, real quick. I had a gentleman. This was last year. This gentleman came up to my SGC submission table at the Syracuse show at the fairgrounds, and he had a Lou Gehrig play ball card. And immediately when he handed it over and said, "I'd like to get this graded," as soon as I saw it, I'm not going to lie, I've been doing this for a long time, 40-something years. I knew like the card was 99% not real. And you want to use text, you don't want to crush someone, you don't want to ruin someone's day. But I said to him, I said, "Sir, I got to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure this is not genuine." And he then proceeded to tell me, well, my dad had it in his collection, and he gave it to me. It has to be real. And I pointed out the things that I thought made it a fake. One of them was, and this is something to look for too, it had what we in the hobby call, intentional wear, right? All four corners had like rounded corners, but they were all exactly rounded the same way. And if you look at a real vintage card, right, they may have four rounded corners or four corners with corner wear, but look at each of those four corners. It's going to have different wear patterns, right? They're not going to be like carbon copies of each other. But when a lot of these counterfeiters do this intentional wear, they really have one sort of template. And so the four rounded corners, kind of look almost identical, and that's the first giveaway. Also, there was a little paper loss on the back, and so that's another thing that could be not as common as the rounded corners, but people can add paper loss to a fake card just to try to sell it. That see, it's real. It's got some paper loss. And I felt bad. The guy's telling me that his dad gave it to him, but I said, well, let's do the light test. He said, what's the light test? And I explained it just like I just talked about here a few minutes ago. And I said, light should not pass through this card. And I did it, and it did. The light passed through. And I happened to have a play ball card. I pulled, not the Lou Gehrig, but I pulled another play ball card out and did the light test on that. And it didn't go through. And I showed him. And, he really didn't seem convinced. I think he was really caught up on it. His dad gave it to him, and he insisted on sending it in. And I said, I'm 99% sure it's going to, SGC is going to grade it counterfeit. But it's your dime, for your own ease of mind. But I'm just warning you, that's what you're looking at. So he submitted it, and sure enough, a couple weeks later, came back as counterfeit, and called and spoke to him, and broke the bad news and told him it was kind of like we discussed at the show. And he didn't say a lot. I think he was a little bit shocked, and I don't know whether the father's story is real or not real. I'm going to give him the benefit of doubt, and apparently, if that's the case, then unfortunately, Dad got taken, and hopefully didn't lose a lot of money in any kind of transaction like that. And funny little kind of PS to the story, the gentleman said, I still want to pick, even though it came back as counterfeit, I'll pick it up at the next show. And never came, left a voicemail, hey, didn't see you, you never came to the show, I'll keep bringing the card, and hopefully, you pick it up. He never came and got the card. So I actually still have this counterfeit Gehrig card sitting in a box here under my desk, and just in case the gentleman ever calls and says, I still want it back, right? It's not my card. I just was the bulk submitter for it. But, it's sad if that story is really true, and, here he thought he was getting a beautiful piece from his dad, something to remember his dad by, and unfortunately did not have a really great ending or outcome. But, again, that's why we're doing this show, right? It's to hopefully avoid you being in a similar situation. So, we talked about things with raw cards and that, but let's talk about slabs, right? Unfortunately, people are making fake slabs as well. And the one thing I want to say with any card, raw, graded, if the deal seems too good to be true, that should raise an early red flag. If hey, this card is really $2,000 and the seller only wants $500 for it, especially online or in like a Facebook marketplace, your ears need to perk up. I'm not saying there's deals can't be had and people get pretty good buys every day, but generally that should raise some red flag, right? When that occurs. Also, it's always nice to have a example of that card, even if it's not the same player, but like what I said with the Gehrig, I had a play ball card that I could compare that Gehrig to and show the gentleman kind of the difference, the light test, right? Always, nice to have, even if it's not the same player, but an example from that set. You can kind of line them up, see the size, right? Maybe if the one you're thinking about purchasing doesn't match up size-wise, right? You start having the question: has this card been trimmed? Speaking of trimming, a lot of times, if a card has really sharp edges and corners, and it's an old card, that's also another red flag. Be careful of dark colored cards, right? The 1971 tops, those black bordered cards. I talked about how I get cards back from my bulk subs, counterfeit. I get some more cards, particularly from that 1971 set, where it has, color added. Someone took a black Sharpie and made a white corner, not a white corner anymore, or edges that were showing white, they filled it in with a black Sharpie to conceal, normal wear and tear over the years. So be careful with coloring added to cards as well, especially on black bordered cards, but not exclusively the black bordered cards. It can be done with any color. So look at the card also from the side angle. I've seen many, when people want to sell me cards, I've looked at the card from the side, right? And you can see the Sharpie, right? They just didn't do a good job keeping it only where it's bled over into something else where you can see it, right? And I've said, there's color added here. I'm not saying you did it. I'm just saying it's done. Whether the person you got it from did it or the person they got it from did it, it's on this card, and it's a factor now. So be aware of that as well. But again, it's not just cards, right? It's also slabs. Now we're seeing some fake slabs, and this is where it gets a little tricky. I think for me, it's harder to tell sometimes a fake slab from a fake card, but things to look for. Fake slabs tend to creak when you twist them a little bit with two hands. I'm not saying forcefully try to snap the slab in half, but if you move it a little bit, you will hear the creak, and you say, well, what's the creak from? It's from the not being sealed sonically. So there's a creakiness. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every slab that creaks is 100% fake. That's probably not even accurate. But it is something, a test you can do to kind of to determine that. A field test, right? I've handled countless thousands of PSA, Beckett, SGC slabs. You handle them that much, you tend to know weight just unconsciously. I'm not saying you put on a scale, but you get used to the slab, right? So if you're familiar with a slab, take a look at the slab in question and see if it feels right? It feels the same. It has the same sort of heft in your hand. Sometimes they can be, a fake slab could be too heavy, or it could even be too light. That one's kind of just a gut hunch type of deal. But the number one thing is the flip, right? I know Beckett fake Beckett slabs have a different serial number. The counterfeiters use different serial numbers. You can go online, and that's another thing. Plenty of online resources as well as my podcast and other podcasts, right? Flip can be, just like the dot matrix print on a fake card. Look at the print on the flip. Compare it to, a real flip from that grading company. Check out the serial numbers. That's the other thing. Most grading card companies, especially the big ones, you can reference the serial number. So you type in the serial number, it should come out to that card. And they also provide a picture. Match those pictures up. I mean, people can steal serial numbers and do all that. So that's not the end all be all, but kind of do some detective work, right, with your eyes and do some of the research. Again, we're gonna wrap it up there, but be wary. It's not just cards; it's slabs as well. And folks, there's plenty of resources in book form, online, audio that can help you navigate this terrain and help you avoid a situation where you could lose your hard-earned money, like we started off with that question, and we don't want to see that, right? So my door is always open. I don't want to say I can prevent every ripoff from happening, but I've done it long enough. I might be able to provide a little insight there. But always always proceed with caution. Keep your head on a swivel and try to be as smart as you can. All right, that's going to do it. All right, thank you for listening to another episode of Hobby Quick Hits. Want to give out our social media, starting with our website, which is www.sportscardnationpodcast.com. Facebook, you can follow us at www.facebook.com/sportscardnationpodcast/ Twitter, we are at SportsCard NATI1, so it's SportsCard NATI1. Instagram at SportsCard Nation Podcast, or you can email the show hobbyquickhits@gmail.com. Again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.